This video is dedicated to James Humphreys. James, thank you. Maelstrom Wanderer up against Aragorn. The client just crashed on me, so we have no artwork for now. We do have in hand Sylvan Library. The client's still loading up, so it won't even expand the cards. Sakura Tribalkai and Thran Dynamo in the form of ramp. And then a Call Forth the Tempest. Oh my Christ. Alright, client's caught up now, so let's go for the Tricycle Land. I appreciate Terax, patron and friend of the channel, being patient. Alright, draw into a forest, so could go for the Sylvan Library here and then save the Sakura Tribalkai, because we'll be able to shuffle cards away from the top that we don't like the look of. We could always go for Thran Dynamo off the back of an Ancient Tomb next turn. Some ramp in the form of a Signet from the Aragorn player. Alright, just lands for us, so put Forest on top, keep hold of a Tropical Island, and I suppose we're fine to just go Thran Dynamo here, take even more life. So we're going to see another land next turn, but hopefully see two different cards as well. I don't suppose it's the end of the turn if we see nothing but more mana. Serra Ascendant coming out quite early, so that is going to be a difficult one to deal with. Menace now. Flying 6/6 lifelink. When it deals damage to a player, create a treasure token thanks to the Sticky Fingers. Not one you see much of, but that is a good aura. Alright, so obviously seeing the land again. And that is a hit the Motherlode. Discover 10. Then if the discovered mana value is less than 10, create tapped treasures equal to the difference. Yeah, I've added a load of Discover cards to the deck. I'll talk about that once our turn is gone. Yeah, we could put both of these on top and then play our commander here, I suppose. So we'll play the Tropical Island so that we've got teamer colours and go for our commander. We know what we're cascading into. Yeah, as soon as we saw the Discover ability spoiled in the most recent set, it reminded me of Cascade, as it did everyone else. Know that we're discovering into Bribery. Maybe could have swapped around the order in which we put things on top, but I don't suppose it matters. We get 5 treasure tokens this way. Yeah, so I wanted to make a deck in which we had Cascade and Discover in the same deck and see how they jive together, and turns out it does pretty well apparently. So able to steal stuff from our opponent here. An Agent of Treachery, that'll do. So take the Serra Ascendant immediately. Do get those 5 treasure tokens. And the whole point of the deck is to steal stuff from our opponent, get free spells like the Bribery, Cascade, Discover, all that kind of thing. So pretty typical obnoxious Maelstrom Wanderer deck, but there is a bit of a sub-theme in there with regards to getting free spells and stuff. Alright, so we do have haste on all of our things as well, because Maelstrom Wanderer does that as well for some reason. Alright, and Swords to Plowshares, don't mind recasting the Maelstrom Wanderer at all. So that can go into the command zone. And none of our stuff has haste now, so cannot swing in. So Aragorn, the King of Gondor, into play, and they do get the Monarch, which we are very quickly going to steal away from him. So again, it is a mountain on top. Up the Beanstalk, Boundless Realms, I don't mind cascading into either. So let's go mountain on top and Boundless Realms on top as well. Then we'll play ourselves the Reliquary Tower. Up the Beanstalk will cantrip us. Oh, actually, I didn't put the land on top, did I? I forgot that this cantrips as soon as you play it. Thought you had to play into it. Oh well, we'll draw into the Boundless Realms, that's a mistake. We'll cascade into something else at least. And take 3 of our treasure tokens as well. Or actually, we can use the Delighted Halfling to make that unblockable, or uncounterable I should say. So we'll draw a card. Yeah, we know we're drawing into a mountain, so we'll put up the Beanstalk on the stack first so that we can cascade past that mountain. Alright, and Teamer Ascendancy. That will draw us a card when the commander enters. Maybe get into a big creature here as well. Nope, just more mana in the Sol Ring. That means that we can automatically pay for the tax effect on the Maelstrom Wanderer. Wow, and we got into a basic mountain anyway. What are the odds of that? We will draw a card to Teamer Ascendancy. It's just more mana. So now we'll turn in sideways with the big creatures. And the 4/4 going to jump in the way of Maelstrom Wanderer. So still have not dealt any commander damage. We do take the Monarchy away from our opponent. And we'll get a treasure token as well, thanks to the Sticky Fingers. 1 mana shy of playing the Boundless Realms, unfortunately, but we will pass the turn at that. Draw into another land in the Avamaya. Loyal Warhound will be able to ramp thanks to our surplus lands. And Sylvan Library doing some work for us here, getting us past all the surplus mana. Like I said, not particularly interested in a Jeweled Lotus this late in the game, so put both the lands on top. And why don't we finally play the Sakura Tribalkai and use that as the shuffle effect for the turn. Play a mountain and let's go for the Escape to the Wilds. That will draw us a card with Up the Beanstalk. Oracle of Moldiah will allow an additional land in this turn. And let's see what we get from Escape the Wilds. There is an additional land for the turn, so we'll play that. Jeweled Lotus ended up on top anyway, so we might as well play it. Quite like Goreclaw into a 4-mana Inferno Titan I think we can afford, so go for the Goreclaw. And that will draw us a card to the Temur Ascendancy. Gets us into Nature's Law. So let's crack the Wooded Foothills for a duel. Might as well use the Nature's Law in order to get another land into play. We'll just shock in a Breeding Pools. And then we'll use our Mana Dork and Treasures to get down a 4-mana Inferno Titan. Again, drawing to Up the Beanstalk. We'll draw to Temur Ascendancy as well. So 1 damage on the Loyal Apprentice, or Loyal Warhound I should say. And 2 to our opponent. And we've drawn into Rishkar's Expertise and Rite of Replication now, so definitely getting past the mana. We've got until next turn to play Cyclonic Rift, so yeah, it turns out to be a pretty commanding one this, unfortunately. We'll deal the first points of commander damage to our opponent though. So Inferno Titan, Lightning Bolts. The Goreclaw is going to give Trample and +1/+1 to the big creatures. And Serret Ascendant going to make a treasure token again, got our opponent down to 4. And we have an unlimited hand size thanks to the Reliquary Tower we've played previously, so able to draw into another fetch. A Court of Ire now, and that is 2 damage to any target, would be 7 if they can keep hold of the Monarchy, which Terrax cannot unfortunately. So we'll draw a card at the end of the turn, has 2 in hand, not going to insult my opponent's time any further, just put the additional mana on top. And we'll go straight through to combat here. And there we are. Again, a bit of a one-sided one there. I mean, Maelstrom Wanderer is obnoxious at the best of times, but apparently if you add Discover and Bribery and a means of stealing all your opponent's stuff, then it becomes even more obnoxious. Appreciate Terrax playing that out, can always rely on him to get a full game in. We'll try and play another one. Playing up against Big Angry Omnath this time, and if we had green in our opening hand, I would keep that, but we have to mulligan. Alright, that's much better. We will get rid of the Apex Devastator. Should hopefully ramp quite nicely in the opening turns here. Yeah, I don't think landfall matters, so I'll take the Tricycle land. A turn 1 Sol Ring, not what we want to see against Angry Omnath. Right, Escape the Wilds, a means of somewhat refilling our hands, so a Command Tower Sakura Tribalkai is always a tap land, whereas Nature's Law could be an untapped land, so we'll play the Tribalkai first, and just get a mountain with that, should be fine. We'll try to get down Oracle of Moldiah next turn, but obviously it depends what we draw into. We could double spell instead. The ramp continues from the Lands Matter player, as you would expect, and is able to double spell himself. That is a thriller possibility, discarding a Fauna Shaman, 5 cards in hand. Alright, Scroll Rack, I don't think we need at the moment, so let's go Nature's Law. And I will take a Tropical Island with that to fix the blue a bit better. Then we'll go for the Up the Beanstalk, and remember that it does counter on entry this time. And that gets us into a Boseiju, which could go after the Sol Ring with that, but I think I'd rather play it as a land most likely. Probably just go Escape to the Wilds next turn and try to land ramp, or at least get into some fast mana of our own. We do have until our next turn after we play this in order to play the spells. There is a Scoot Swarm from our opponent. Doesn't have enough lands to make copies of Scoot Swarm yet. Alright, Terror of the Peaks is tempting. Could maybe play that and then play Oracle of Moldiah into it next turn to get rid of Scoot Swarm. There's no guarantee that they're not going to be multiple copies of Scoot Swarm though, although they are still a couple of lands away. If they had something like Skyshroud Claim, you think they would have played it by now. Yeah, we'll risk Terror of the Peaks. And that will draw us maybe into a land. Yes, we do get into a land, that's good. So just playing a land regularly into the Scoot Swarm. We don't want to see a Cultivate or anything like that here. Alright, a Shire. Well, that'll do it. So getting a token copy of the Scoot Swarm thanks to this entering as a land. So it may well be that we get into one-sided board wipe territory. Okay, there's a Chaos Warp. If we're lucky, we could go for Oracle of Muldiah, get 2 lands and be able to go Chaos Warp. And that gets rid of the Scoot Swarm. Let's cast Oracle of Muldiah and we'll see. We do have a shuffle effect to go for with the Windswept Teeth, so if we don't have a land on top... Consecrated Sphinx, keeping hold of that is tempting as well. So we'll get rid of the original Scoot Swarm, and I am going to shuffle away the Consecrated Sphinx here against my better judgment. Get out a Tiger, and don't have a land on top anyway, so might as well play the Scroll Rack. Maybe shove the Escape to the Wilds on top. I think I would have gone Chaos Warp onto the Ashaya as opposed to this Scoot Swarm. Ashaya is going to be a giant pain, because when Omnath comes down it will create landfall. Only 3 cards in our opponent's hand, but yeah, we're not going as fast as we would like in a Maelstrom Wanderer deck. We do have Oracle of Muldiah in play though, so we could still get a couple of lands off the top. Alright, so Omnath coming into play, and thanks to it having landfall, don't think my opponent's played a land this turn, but they do get the Elemental token and another Scoot Swarm, so shows what a difference missing the land makes. Because we've still got a 7/7 to deal with, so not only did they get the 2 tokens they wouldn't necessarily have got, but we have to take more damage as well. So get rid of an insect, take 8. I never seem to have the best of luck with Oracle of Muldiah personally, and yeah, the bad luck continues. That is a greater good. So it's Escape to the Wilds then, I think. And hopefully we get a couple of lands here. Draw with Up the Beanstalk, there's a land. Got an Ancient Tomb. We've got 3 lands we can make this turn, so yeah, there's Apex Devastator. We could maybe ramp into Muldrifter as well. Play the Ancient Tomb. And there's the Great Henge on top. Play the Forest is fine. We can play the Island as well, thanks to the additional land drops this turn. And I think it's just Delighted Halfling here for a little bit more ramp. Shouldn't be worrying about counter magic, but this can also get rid of a Scoot Swarm as well, try and keep that under control as best we can. So yeah, we're holding up Chaos Warp onto the Ashaya. Obviously decided to hold back the Terror of the Peaks just in case. Should maybe be swinging in with that so that we can try and outrace our opponent. Not sure I'll be blocking with it. Just praying our opponent misses lands here. Alright, tapping Angry Omnath for mana gets him into the greater good. We've left the Ashaya in play of course, so can tap creatures for mana. Now then, do we go after the Omnath with Chaos Warp? Do we go after Greater Good with Chaos Warp? Can throw lightning bolts around here is the problem. See what he wants to do. He might sacrifice his own Ashaya. Ubermold Tracker is going to trigger landfall again. I'm going to get rid of Ashaya. And I think Ashaya is an elemental, isn't it? Yeah, so they'll be able to lightning bolt something here. Between a rock and a hard place, really. So lightning bolt goes on to the Oracle of Muldiah. Like I said before, haven't had the best of luck with that anyway. And they will draw 7 and have to discard 3. So that will take them back to their starting amount of cards in hand. And probably get them into more lands so that they can keep this Scoot Swarm up. Discarding Realms Uncharted, Renan 7, and World Shaper. It will counter the Chaos Warp as well, so they don't get a free permanent. And they did manage to make a land, so Scoot Swarm continuing to nip away at our ankles. Haven't gone off too far with that, thankfully. But that will help out. A Wayward Sawtooth makes an additional land. As long as they've got one in hand, that is. And they do. So Scoot Swarm is going to go up to 4, and I think Terror of the Peaks has done its best against that, but it is now officially out of control. And we'll take a 5/5 Elemental. Was thinking the damage might be a bit worse in the red zone here, but thankfully we've managed to control the board a little bit. Okay, so there we see the Great Henge. Could stack the top of our library a little bit if we go for the Apex Devastator. I think we need creatures into play really, so probably leave the Greater Good alone for now against my better judgment, although refilling our hand during the next turn cycle is probably going to be a good idea. Maybe they don't swing into a 10/10. Yeah, so let's go for Scroll Rack, and we'll hope that we don't see anything better that we'd rather have cascaded into. Oh, we're going to end up drawing into something, aren't we? So we'll go Great Henge first. then Greater Good on top. Forgot about the Up the Beanstalk again. There is a land for the turn. Crystal Shard to bounce the Apex Devastator back isn't the worst. Let's go for Apex Devastator. Oh, but of course we've got the triggers that we can put on the stack, don't we? So let's go Up the Beanstalk first. We will go into the Greater Good. So we'll see Greater Good and the Great Henge, and then 2 mystery cards that are hopefully big creatures. Maybe shouldn't be putting non-creatures on top of the library. So yeah, Greater Good. The Great Henge is going to be a little bit of life and some more cantripping. Up the Beanstalk will draw us. When you Cascade, it does count as casting the spell. Oh, and there's a Cyclonic Rift, so we only need to last a turn cycle here, which could be a big ask. Ha! Atali, Primal Conqueror. Did say I want free stuff. Not many better ways to get it than with Atali Primal Conqueror. Farseek from Up the Beanstalk. So, Terror of the Peaks. How much damage are we going to deal this turn? 10 when this enters. 7 when this enters. Do we risk trying to get rid of our opponent straight up here? Or do we have to go after the Angry Omnath? Yeah, I think we have to go after Angry Omnath with the 7 damage. And they can see what we get with Atali and everything before losing the Angry Omnath. Although deciding to do it now, they should probably see what we get with this first, because that'll dictate where the damage is pointed. I suppose that's an argument to be made actually for doing it now, because if we do get into more big creatures, Terror of the Peaks will continue to trigger. So we're not going to get any damage from Apex Devastator now. We are forcing our opponent's hand. They sacrifice an elemental token to do that, so draw 3, or draw 5 and discard 3. And then sacrificing the commander itself means that the elementals aren't as much of a threat for now. So they managed to get rid of Terror of the Peaks. And now they're going to draw a bunch, discarding some lands to the Greater Good. And then a Forest, a Vandal Blast, and Shamanic Revelation. Might have wanted the life gain from that. Alright, so we get into a Goblin Bombardment, get another sack outlet away from our opponent is good. And we'll take a Mana Vault. Don't think we can afford the Cyclonic Rift with that. So plus counter and draw a card to the Great Henge when the Atali entered. Drew back into the Consecrated Sphinx. Cascade is going to trigger for the last time on the Apex Devastator. There we see the Teamer Ascendancy again. So that will cantrip on the Apex Devastator entering play. Draw from Up the Beanstalk from when we cast the Apex Devastator. And there is a new one, another Discover card in Chamil. Or Kimil, however you're supposed to say it. So cantrip twice from the Apex Devastator thanks to the Great Henge and the Teamer Ascendancy. And I suppose we can play the Chamil here actually thanks to the Mana Vault. So yeah, maybe we do that. We're going to lose out on Seagate Restoration and the Muldrifter, but I think we're doing alright keeping cards in our hand. Getting a little bit of life from the Great Henge. And make it so that our spells can't be countered. Shouldn't be worrying about that, although red does have some counterspell stuff nowadays. Cantrip on the big spell with Up the Beanstalk again. Apparently this is a good card, not sure if any of you are aware of it or not. Was doing the rounds in some of the 60 card formats. It's very, very good. Drawing into more mana in the form of Sky Shroud Claim. So I think we just hold back our big stompies and try and get as close to an Alpha Strike as we can off the back of a Cyclonic Rift next turn. Now Cyclonic Rift really upsets some players and some viewers of the channel, but it's in the format unfortunately. That is Beast Within, definitely goes on the Greater Good. Don't want them having any sack outlets. And that was free off the back of this, so apparently it was a good spell to go for. Angry Omnath straight back into play, would have been able to play it into the Greater Good again. Got 9 cards in hand, but no means of sacrificing these elementals, and we're certainly not going to block them. Playing a land into Scoot Swarm, which continues to go off. Looks like our opponent is trying to go wide on us here. We will take an additional landfall a turn away from them, I think. So let's block the dinosaur, block a 3/3, and that will have us take, what's this? 5, 10 and 15 damage. So it's a close one. Knocks us down to 8. And I think we're just 1 mana shy away from going for Cyclonic Rift and beating them with the Atali Primal Sickness, giving that infect. I'll double check, but I think we're just 1 mana shy of that. Or maybe not with Teferi. Take 1 damage to the Mana Vault. So we play a land for the turn. Wild Growth is free pretty much, so we'll go for that now onto a Forest. And then it's 1, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then how many things can we untap? 4 target permanents, so that will be 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, I think we'll just try the Teferi Temporal Archmage thing. We'll definitely be able to afford the Cyclonic Rift afterwards. And that will draw us a card. Into the Cavern of Souls, more uncounterable shenanigans. So let's untap all of our permanents that tap for more than 1 mana. The Enchanted Land, the Mana Vault, the Great Henge, and the Ancient Tomb. And that leaves us with 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So that means that we can afford the Atali shenanigans. So flip round the Atali into the Primal Sickness, overload with the Rift, and it's another one to enrage some viewers of the channel. Not going to waste any of my opponent's time, we'll just go in for the Primal Sickness and get him with the toxic damage. And he graciously decides to take it, goes on the stack, and there we are. So, well, like I said at the beginning of the video, Maelstrom Wanderer is as obnoxious as it's ever been, actually even more so now that we've got Discover, and even more means of cheating in cards. Our opponent definitely got away from us in the early game, but managed to just squeak out a victory in the end there. It was a close one and really fun game in the end, so hopefully you all enjoyed it. Big thank you to the patrons for their support of the channel as well, and I will see you all in the next one. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.